think we can get started. So again, welcome to the webinar. Just before we get started, just a bit on the housekeeping rules, webinar housekeeping rules that we use, which are typical to most webinars, but we'll just review again. All attendees will be muted for duration of the webinar. If you should experience any problems, though, you can communicate through your chat window on your webinar control panel. There's handouts that are available during this presentation. You can just click and I've got a green arrow pointing there to the handout window. You can just drag and drop those to your desktop. And questions can be posted at any time during the webinar, but we're going to wait to the end of the webinar to address those questions, and time permitting. But if we don't get to them, we will get back to you with an email addressing your question. So the agenda for the webinar is going to be, first we're going to give a brief introduction to Larson software technology. I'm going to cover the webinar objectives. Then we'll go into the main presentation, which is going to be a review of the VizEx View family of viewers. And then we're going to have product demos on each of the viewers. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. For those of you who are not familiar with Larson Software, we're based in Houston, Texas. We've been around since 1984, and we've been known as the CGM experts for over 30 years. We develop powerful, innovative graphic software based on open standards. We promote CGM usage by the making available of VizEx Reader, which is a free CGM and TIFF viewer. We're a member of the CGM Open Foundation, and our products are used in a couple of industries. They're used in aerospace defense by technical publication professionals to create, maintain, and deploy technical graphics, and in oil and gas by geoscience and geotechnical professionals to create, view, and print maps, seismic, and well log images. So the objectives of this webinar are going to be to introduce and review the CGM format, its strengths and weaknesses, just a little background on the governance of CGM, industries where CGM is used, and hopefully answer the question, why CGM? We're going to describe the challenges of viewing and deploying CGM files, demonstrate the future, what we believe is the future of CGM viewing, and summarize the VizEx View family of products and their benefits. Just a little background. Many of you may not know how CGM came about, but CGM is the computer graphics meta file. It's a 2D open graphics vector and raster format. It's non-owned, non-proprietary. It's managed by the CGM Open Foundation. They have their own website where you can see where it's who belongs and learn more about CGM. The CGM format first appeared in the early 80s, or actually mid 80s, and it was a format that was supported initially by many graphics applications, and then in the early 90s the oil and gas industry adopted the CGM format and used it for data interchange and for printing and for representing geophysical and geological data. And then later in that decade, the aerospace and defense industry adopted it for their standard for technical documentation, and then there was an important group called the S1000D, which is a standard for technical publication which standardizes on CGM. And also the web CGM profile was developed, which was actually made a W3C standard. But one of the problems all along has been that for technical documentation is that the technology required a plugin to view it in browsers. So with that background information, I'm going to now turn you over to Dave, who's going to do a demo and the body of our main part of our webinar today.
Thank you, Don. That's a good introduction. So welcome everybody. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge because we're going to show quite a few different products today in this demonstration. So please bear with us when we're kind of moving between applications. So as Don Riley said, the deployment of technical graphics. I'm just Don, could you just go to mute? Is that okay? Sorry. Okay, let's just. Okay, so the deployment of technical graphics is usually through either print or an interactive electronic technical manual, an IETM or IETP. So you need some kind of viewing technology to do that. Obviously, you could use raster data, but a lot of the aerospace and defense companies use CGM as their format, which can contain hotspot information. So CGM is really the graphics file of choice really for distributing that information. And they also need to review and mark up information and just get it around the organization for informational purposes. In the oil and gas, then it's slightly different usage, but you still need to exchange data, and CGM was chosen early on as a way of distributing that data around, letting other people within the organization or external to the organization to see it, and also to print it as well. So we'll see there's exploration maps, seismic interpretations, and well logs. So these files can be very, not actually physically big in size, in memory size, but actually physical size. These files can be very large. They could go to print to a plotter or something like that. So the focus of the presentation will be on viewing, obviously. So we'll look at the challenges of deployment. So CGM contains certain properties that certain industry needs, like hotspots and tooltips or interactivity. And there's no native support in CGM, in the web browser for CGM. So that has always been a challenge. So you needed some kind of plug-in technology, which Larson has developed, and we'll show some of those today. Obviously, another challenge is this quality of the display of the files electronically. As I said, the physical size, and that's what I mean, the spatial dimensions of those files. And you also, if you're distributing these out in an IETM environment, an interactive manual, then you probably want to customize the tools and so forth for the user to display the files and interact with them. And obviously the last one probably should have been the first one, which is the cost to actually deploy this information. So what does the VizEx View family consist of? Well, we kind of have two distinct areas, the standalone, and then there's a developer environment. And they are distinct. So in the standalone area, we have kind of off-the-shelf products. So you can have VizEx Reader, which is the free version, which was mentioned earlier, which we'll show you. It's only free for personal use, but there is a corporate license if you want to distribute it around your organization. And then there's VizEx Pro, which gives you more functionality. And there's a very specific version for oil and gas called VizEx GT or Geotech. We won't be showing that today, but if you're interested in that particular product, then please contact Larson and they'll be able to help you out. Then we have these, we have the plugins or ActiveX and for Internet Explorer, and then we have other plugins for other browsers, for Chrome and for Firefox. Today we'll just show the Firefox because we think that has a bit more impact because it also could actually move over platforms to Linux. So that's probably interesting to some of the people on the call today. We have, to support that, we have libraries. So these are really where we move into the developer tools. So the software developer kits. So this is where we have where we draw the line between an off-the-shelf product. You can't really buy an ActiveX control individually. It's the developer's product. But the other standalone product we do have is for Apple iOS. So iVizEx is a application for iPhone, for iPad, and so forth. So gives you the ability again to view CGM on those particular devices, and it's available in the Apple Store. And we'll finish off as a kind of finale is the new product from Larson, which is a CGM viewing capability for HTML5. And this provides the ability to view CGM without a plugin technology, so no plugin is required. Okay, so the first part is we're going to look at the standalone products, so VizEx Reader and VizEx Pro. This is just something you would install on your desktop as a normal application, so this is why we call them standalone. As I said, VizEx Reader is free and VizEx Pro is a licensed product. So VizEx Reader, it can be downloaded from Larson's website, cgmlarson.com. You just have to fill in a short form to get the download. If you do want to go away from just a personal use to more of corporate use, in other words, more than one license, then you'll need to contact Larson to get some details on the licensing prices. So why did they make it free? The main kind of strategy was to make or promote the use of CGM in industry, and that was the primary purpose of making the viewer free. It is standalone. It enables you to exchange CGM files with colleagues or customers. It supports all versions of CGM through 1 to 4. Supports industry profiles, S1000D, PIP for the petroleum industry, oil and gas, and ATA for commercial aerospace. And it also additionally supports the TIFF format as well, so you can open TIFF files as well as CGM files. So we've got a brief demo on the first product, which is VizEx Reader. So this is the free version. So very simple interface. I can open a file. Just need to navigate to where it is on my desktop or my computer, and we can open it up. So this is, to begin with, this is just what a file you would see typically in a technical manual. Very small toolbox. We can zoom in on areas. We will see hotspot information and tooltips. They won't actually trigger anything, but the hotspots are kind of live. We can view all the hotspots on the page. We can resize this to fit in the area so you can see all the hotspots that are on this particular illustration. We can pan around, and we can zoom out and zoom in. So pretty basic, but it's a good way of getting the information out there. I'm also going to open up a geo file as well. So this we'll call a depth map. So we've got some color on here. You can see it's very detailed. So it's obviously useful to zoom in on here and see what these numbers apply to on the scale. We can obviously resize this again. So what I'm going to do here is, though, I'm going to go to the properties, which is a really useful little utility, so you can find out a lot more about the CGM file. So we can see the profile is the PIP profile. We can see the physical dimensions of the file. It's 23 inches by 22 inches, so you can see it's quite a large actual spatial file. And some other details on there as well, when it was created and so forth. So that's the free viewer. So I'm just going to close that down. And we'll move on to VizEx Pro. So VizEx Pro is similar, but it's got a lot more kind of functionality. It is a licensed product. So ideal if you want to distribute and print and review your technical graphics. It's got markup features, ideal for that review process. And it probably eliminates some of the more expensive software if you just really need to look at actually the illustration and print it out and so forth and mark it up for others to do amendments to it. It also has the ability to work with TIFF, DWG and EMF as well, so it's not just CGM and TIFF. And it has more versatile print options than the free products. In other words, it can print a lot larger physical size files. So if you're going to go to a plotter, which could be many feet long, perhaps, particular files, especially in the oil and gas industry. So we have a little matrix down here so you can see what we actually cover. So again, a short demo of VizEx Pro. I'm going to open a file. I'm going to keep probably using the same files throughout, certainly from a technical graphics point of view. So same file again. Again, see the hotspots are activated, but you can see now our toolbox is greatly enhanced with different options. So we have some markup tools. So I can draw a rectangle around this area. So I could use this as markup, or I can even convert it to a hotspot. And actually give this a URL or a screen tip. So that's now a hotspot. Or I can just use it generally for markup. So I can use the ellipse, for instance, to highlight an area. And I can attach, obviously, text to that. Then you can change the text size and color and so forth. I've also got the, I can remove markup as well. So I can actually get rid of this one. And I can move it over. It even has a little kind of annotation line, so we can remove that part. We also have some stamps as well. So if you want to approve this illustration or it's confidential, again, we can change the text style or the color of the background and then just put our stamp on here. It also supports layers. So if there's layers on the CGM, say we've got one here for callouts, I can turn that layer off just by clicking and it will toggle. We can get rid of certain layers or bring them back. Again, zooming in, so all the things you would expect, we can zoom in on it and we can resize it. So a lot more markup tools. We can crop the image as well, so we can crop the CGM down. So I'm not going to go into much more detail than that on this particular one. So I'm going to now open a geophysical CGM. Okay, so this looks quite daunting when you first open it up. So this is a well log. So these are usually, as you can see here, very long and thin. So it's just some data that's been presented. So we can get in right into this, and you can see that this is very, very detailed information. We can look at the properties of this, and we can see that it's obviously long and thin, but it's 113 inches long. That's the actual size of it. So I have some other symbols here, very much specific to oil and gas. So I can add these to this particular diagram or others for that matter. So you can just bring it over here and you can add, say, limestone. So if there's any way you want to annotate this up with symbols, then we have that ability here as well. So these obviously symbols mean something to the oil and gas industry. They're particularly designed for that purpose. So that's VizEx Pro. Again, that's a licensed product, so in other words, you have to pay for that particular product. And it is standalone. So as we move on, we're now moving into the developer area where we need a plugin to actually display a CGM file within a web browser. So I did mention earlier on that for Internet Explorer you need a technology called ActiveX to display the file. And in Chrome and Firefox, they're really described as NP plugins. So it is a plugin, it has to be installed on the target computer to view the CGM file. But all the major browsers are supported, and as I mentioned earlier on, Firefox can also support Linux as well. So it is a software what we describe as a software development kit. It's designed for Linux and Windows, and it will support obviously the CGM in their applications. So it's an easy to use C++ library for obviously for developers, not for me, but if you're a software developer, then it's going to be easy to use for you. SDK contains sample code, documentation, and the object code library. So all the necessary tools you're going to need to start implementing the viewer. So we're going to use, just quickly go to this. This is not a major demo, but we're going to go to Firefox. And what I just need to do here is just go out of the presentation a second and to bring a file in. So sorry to have to go to the desktop, but this is the same file again. This is the exploded CGM. I'm just going to drag and drop it over to Firefox, and you can see that the file opens. We have a toolbox at the top here. So similar again, we have the tooltips as we move over the hotspots. They don't actually trigger anything. But you can see hopefully we're on the webinar, but you can see how quickly it refreshes. We can resize, we can print this out, we can save it. So the toolbox here is just the default one. You can design your own implementation of the toolbox, and that's using the developer kit. So this is just a standard one. And we can see the hotspots that are on all of them on this particular illustration here. So that is the implementation in Firefox of the plugin for that particular web browser. Again, available as a software development kit. So just going back to the slides, I'll just make sure that you are seeing the slides at this point. Okay, that's good. And now we come to the another standalone product which I mentioned at the beginning, which is for VizEx View for Apple iOS. We've got a really good example on the right here that this could be used in oil and gas or in technical publications to just read information. It can work from a web browser to view the CGM or TIFF files, or it could be standalone as well. So with the standalone version, you're able to mark up files as you can see on the right, so a bit similar to the VizEx Pro. It is available in your App Store. My advice would be to search for iVizEx. You're not going to get any other of that name, so that's how I would actually find it. It is a chargeable app, so you obviously need to pay for it, but it is available in the App Store if you need to look at information, say for instance on an iPhone, or probably more relevant is an iPad, to see some of the files that we're looking at today. And the finale really is the new technology from Larson, which is VizEx View HTML5. So Larson have recognized that plugins have always caused some issues, mainly around IT, and ActiveX is quite controversial in the IT area, mainly because of its security risk. So if we could find a way of actually coming up with some technology that didn't actually rely on a plugin, that didn't have to be installed on the target computer, then that would be quite a revolutionary idea. So, and this is where this product comes in. So there's no plugin required. It gives you full CGM support, gives you the same quality of image, and also renders very quickly as well. So there's no installation for the user at all. It's easily accessible to them. The toolbar is configurable. So again, we're talking about a software development kit again for this particular product. It's not something you would buy individual licenses of. It gives you full control of the graphic display, and it supports all those specifications that we've been discussing this morning. So S1000D for aerospace and defense, ATA ISPEC 2200, and that is mainly for commercial aerospace. And then we have PIP as well for the petrochemical industry, oil and gas. So the The development kit is obviously, again, is designed for developers. If you're considering the support of CGM in your web applications, it's a full JavaScript API based on Web CGM version 2, and it supports the DOM, the Document Object Model. Again, there's a kit that you can get. It provides sample code and documentation. And we're running if this is your area, if you're into the software development area, then we have a special event in February. It will run over 3 days, although it'll be the same event each day, it'll be just at different times. So I'll give you a bit more detail at the end on that particular event. So now a demo of the new product. So I've just gone to this is our evaluation page, which we have at the moment. I'm just going to start off. I've got 3 examples here of viewing some CGM. So it's difficult to actually say there's no plugin here because it looks pretty much as it did before. But this is the CGM file now on the web page, and there is no plugin running in the background. I can resize it, but I don't have a toolbox at the moment. The next example should show that. So let's go to basic CGM file viewer. So now we've got a toolbox. Again, this is default, so it's not something you'd have to implement. You can really change the icons and whatever you want to do, really. I can open a file. So guess what? I'm going to open that same file again. At least we're consistent. So this is this exploded view. Let's make it in fact, I actually changed the size of my thing here, so that'll make it a bit better. So I changed it in Google, the size, so just went a bit big. Okay, so we can see we've got tooltips again. We can zoom in. We can see all the hotspots on the illustration. So pretty similar to before. We can resize to fit. This is just showing where you could open files. So this isn't an IETM. So this is more like the reader product where you could open a file. But you could see now we could do it online. So that kind of opens perhaps other opportunities up for software service perhaps for viewing CGM files. Let's just close this down. So we have another example here. So this is more where we can have links. So we're beginning to kind of look at how we could link files together. So the hotspot drives you to another file perhaps. So these are just simple examples that we've been working on. So here we can see a flat view. It is exploded. Not your typical illustration in a 3D form, but it's sanitized so we can use it. So I'm just going to move over this hotspot here, and it's saying view part online. So this has got a hotspot that's got a URL attached to it. So it should allow me to actually see the web page with this particular screw on it. So we've navigated away from that illustrated parts data. So again, there's no plugin running here. This is the HTML. This is running in the web browser, HTML5. So now we've got more of an assembly, but again, it's exploded. But here we've got links to the actual engineering drawing. So if we want to see the dimensions of this particular part, so we're just really linking around, and we can look at the hotspots here. So I've got another drawing here for which takes us back to where we were before. So you could just navigate backwards and forwards. So this is kind of a typical kind of hotspot technology. So hopefully you can see that the speed is good. It's actually refreshing really quickly. So So there doesn't seem at the moment, we're still working on Larson are still working on the product. So and this is why we're running the workshops and so forth. And so it's still in a kind of beta phase, if you want to call it that, but it's moving forward very, very quickly. The other thing I just wanted to show you here is if I go back to the basic file viewer again and open up one of the geophysical files. So I'm going to choose this one here. So you can see this has got some color on here, probably a scan within the CGM. So we could work with this as well. So we're not limited to working with technical graphics. We can work with the geophysical data as well. So let's just zoom back in on that. So if I just move into this area, this is a bit bigger file, but you can still see the refresh is really good. So again, applications in the geophysical industry or the oil and gas as well for displaying files. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. So that's the HTML5. That's the new VizEx View. So that is the new product. So just in summary, Larson's customers rely on CGM technology to deliver their graphics, obviously, and edit them as well. So there is other tools. It provides a comprehensive, Larson provides a comprehensive portfolio of CGM products, so viewers and editors. The SDKs are well documented, and obviously we have the new one now for HTML5. They're fully supported by our development team or Larson's development team, so very experienced obviously in this particular industry and particularly with SDKs and dealing with the system integrators and software engineers. And I think the HTML5 product, I've got a long history in the industry and I've dealt with IETMs from various companies, and I think one of the things I've always found in my own personal experience was that the plugin technology, especially ActiveX, was a big no-no for a lot of IT companies, IT departments, and caused them major headaches when they had to get accreditation for different networks or different computers. So this new HTML5 product would really alleviate that in a big way. So at this point, I'll just have to bring Don back on if we've got some questions. So I think I can unmute. So I'll bring Don back on and just to see what questions we have at this point. So there's a few questions there. Don, I don't know if you want to take the first one. What does the HTML5 SDK cost? You can take that offline if you wish.
Yeah, that would probably be easier because there's several parameters. It's a server-based licensing, so it's based on, since it's designed for web deployment of graphics, it's a server-based licensing. But we'll get back with you on an email where we can give you more details.
Okay, can you see the questions, Don?
Yeah, I'm trying to expand that window. It's a little teeny window here.
Okay.
Let's see.
I can read it for you, but it says, besides the HTML version, is there a version which works for IE that is not ActiveX? I think I know the answer to that, but so apart from the HTML version, is there any other solution for IE? I don't believe there is.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No. And the interesting thing is that the latest version of IE, the Edge, as they call it, it does not support ActiveX anymore. So there's definitely got to be some. If you use IE to develop items, then probably need to be aware that doesn't support Edge, doesn't support it.
Yeah, good point.
I've got a question about, do you have any other products for oil and gas apart from the viewing technology? There's something.
Yes.
Is it
Well, we have
montage? Is it?
yeah, the CGM Studio, which is a product for creating posters or montages. In other words, large presentations where you put together a presentation from CGM or other graphic files and then print them out. So that's called CGM Studio and designed especially for the oil and gas industry.
Okay. Somebody's pointed out that our copyright date is 2105. So I know we're ahead of the game, but I don't think we're that far ahead yet. But
Right.
we haven't invented a time machine, unfortunately, not at this point. So apologies for that. It will be changed.
Okay.
It's not even 2015. It's actually 16. So.
Yeah, and then the next one is, have you looked at solutions for the Edge browser? And I think we've already addressed that. Yeah, the HTML5 viewer that we just demonstrated will work with Edge.
Okay, is there a way to identify the hotspot attributes in the VizEx Reader?
No, there's not really. I assume you mean like in through JavaScript, where you can attach or listen to an event on in JavaScript and get click events on hotspots. And but no, there's not anything like that in the VizEx Reader. There is in the ActiveX Control or the HTML5 viewer, of course.
Yeah, I think it was mainly referring to apps ID and apps name. So
yeah. Okay. Right.
So
yeah, that would require right.
Yeah, you would probably you have the VizEx Edit product, don't you, Don, which you would be able to look at that detail.
Yeah, of course, right. In the editor, all that information, all that metadata is exposed and editable in VizEx Edit.
Okay, so that would be the alternative. Bit kind of off the wall, but is it possible to get CGM or import CGM into Office products? Microsoft Office.
Yeah. Yes, right. We actually have a plug-in, actually, or an add-in. It's called for VizEx or for Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. So yeah, that's a good point. We do have another. Sometimes it's called. Some people call it a viewer, but it's a way to import a high-resolution CGM file directly into Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint.
Okay, thanks, Don. I have like a final question. I don't know if I was correct in saying the iOS application in the App Store. Is that the best way to find it? Is you just typing in iVizEx to do a search?
Yeah, that's right. If you want to, yeah, you can find it by a search in Google or in the Apple App Store. Just type iVizEx or even CGM Viewer and it'll show up.
Okay. So thanks for that. I think that's the questions that we have today. So I think we've pretty much answered them during the session. So that's good. So I've just thanks Don for your input there, and I'll just kind of close the webinar. We have some information that we have on SlideShare. At the moment, these particular slides are not up there, but they will be soon. So you'll be able, and you'll get the details in a follow-up email. But we'll have the data sheet for the new products will be up there, plus others. There's a CGM infographic, and as I promised, the VizEx View HTML5 workshop is going to take place on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of February. It will be the same content each day, but they'll be just different times, so hopefully satisfy different time zones. So my suggestion is to email Don, don.larson@cgmlarson.com, with respect to an invitation. So it's not something we're kind of promoting out, it's more of an invitation event. So if you're interested, then Don can help you out with that. So with that, thanks for everybody attending today. There will be a recording available of today's webinar, which you'll get details on as well. So if you need to give it to colleagues, then that will be possible. So thanks for your time, and hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.